Now, in part one of Mastering Vocal Runs, we looked to the pentatonic scale for choosing the notes to include in the run. In this video, we're going to give it some feel and some phrasing, and it's going to be very practical with lots of exercises you can try. Hi, I'm Scott. You're watching Inside Musicals, the channel for all things musical theatre. Now, the first thing to know about vocal runs is they're like fingerprints. They're unique to every singer, every genre, and even the context within a song. So there is no one-size-fits-all. You don't have to sound like me or any other singer. But if you have your heart set on a particular style, think of these techniques as your basic building blocks. Then listen to your favourite singer and notice how they string these ideas together. And that'll probably make much more sense by the end of this video. But regardless of musical style, vocal runs should sound articulate, musical and effortless. Okay, first exercise, and I call this the flick. And this is our foundation for clarity and articulation. So we're going to sustain a note, but we're going to reiterate it with a bit of scoop and some volume. At the same time, we're going to snap down the larynx and the back of the tongue. Whoa. Now, if this doesn't come naturally to you, think of it as a similar action to vibrato, but more pronounced, more deliberate. Or think of it as the letter G, 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 g. And notice how the throat springs open. Well, that's what we're looking for. The difference is, in this exercise, we're never quite closing the throat. So start with a G, if that helps, but then open it up. Go, go, go. Now, quick note. On these exercises, I'm using the vowel shape OR in wo. But if you're more comfortable with an oo or an e or any other vowel because it resonates better, do your own thing. Follow your bliss. But only move on to the next exercise once you've mastered the flick. Okay, let's go back to our pentatonic scale. We're going to scoop on each note, hitting each one kind of hard. But we don't want any glottals. So no whoa, oh, oh, oh. We want them emphasized, but joined. Emphasized, but joined. Oh. Now at this stage, it's going to sound a lot more laboured than a polished vocal run. But we want to build precision first, even if it's slow and deliberate, and then we'll loosen it up later. Now in the last video, we learned how to articulate from the front of the mouth, on the lips and the jaw. So let's repeat that last exercise, but this time alternating between the front and the back. And I want you to get used to coordinating this front and back motion. They shouldn't feel like separate mechanisms. They should feel like they work in tandem. Whoa. Now in most runs, we can subdivide rhythms into 2s and 3s. So let's try that same exercise, but this time in 3s. Front, back, back. Whoa. Now let's syncopate that rhythm, emphasizing the second note of each triplet, and notice how it starts to loosen up. Whoa. Now you might have heard of ornaments in instrumental music, things like grace notes, turns, mordents. Small phrases that embellish the melody. So we can kind of think of vocal runs in much the same way, embellishments. But whereas a vocal run might be longer than just a simple grace note, we can build them up out of these smaller units, modular phrases that we can piece together. So let's create some phrases. Now, that first scooping exercise we did is kind of like grace notes flicking up to the note. Whoa. But we can also come from above. So on a 3-note phrase, let's sing a note, a grace note above, and then back down to the note. And try to use that flicking sensation to emphasize the rhythm. Whoa. Whoa. We can add one more note at the end, going down. Whoa. Or going up. Whoa. Or we could take that 3-note phrase, repeat it, but have the notes coming down. Whoa. And we can further embellish by adding another note at the end. And notice how we adjust the rhythm to accommodate. Whoa. We could even tack on that scooping exercise at the beginning. Whoa. And this is how we build larger phrases from these smaller units. And over a lifetime, you'll build up a repertoire of these phrases. Kind of like a jazz musician with little gestures, little licks they can drop in at any time. Now, there is one more thing I want to talk about, and that is emphasis. Because it doesn't always land where we think it does, and it's not always on the strong beat of the bar. So in that earlier phrase, we could emphasize the final note. Whoa. Or emphasize the second to last note, which kind of tucks in the final note, making it more implied than overt. whoa. Now, it's a subtle difference, and either way is valid, but it does change the way we feel the phrase. So here's one more exercise to understand how we switch between emphasis. It's an old jazz choir exercise on the words do, va-do, va-do. And the first time through, we're going to accentuate the do on the downbeat. Do, va-do, 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 va-do. And then we emphasize the va on the upbeat. Do, va-do, 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 va-do. And it feels so much lighter. Instead of always landing heavy on the downbeat, it gets lift by emphasizing the upbeat. This is why swing music feels so buoyant. Now, without me being in the room with you, this is just a starting point to explore. But remember, there are 3 elements to a vocal run. There's deciding which notes go into it, making them clear and articulate on a rhythm, and then knowing where to emphasize to subdivide the phrase. So use these elements and adapt them to your style. Now, I hope you found this useful. Let me know how you're going with vocal runs. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I do love you. Now get out there. Be brilliant.